Hey, so I recently bricked my computer. I bricked my BIOS, and I spent hours and hours trying to figure out how to fix it, and I couldn't find anything that worked. But I decided to tell you guys how I fixed my BIOS. You gotta have a dual BIOS board, first of all. And the first couple things I tried to see what happened was I tried to flash my BIOS to put in a new post image, and it didn't work. It actually corrupted my BIOS. So I did a CMOS reset because, well, first my BIOS was I couldn't get into my BIOS. It would just freeze, but it would still boot like normal. So my first attempt was to clear the CMOS, and after I cleared my CMOS, it bricked my entire computer. I could no longer boot. I couldn't get into my BIOS or nothing. So I needed to figure out a way to force flash, get my second BIOS to force flash my primary BIOS to fix it. And one of the first things they tell you to try to do, I made this graphic over here. Uh, I'll explain it here in a minute, but the first thing they try to get you to do is turn the system off, power the system up, but continue holding down the power button until the system shuts down again. Power the system back on. So it says turn system off, power system on, but continue holding down the power button until the system shuts down again, and then power the system back on. And that should initiate the flash process, but it didn't for me. It didn't work. Then their second option is turn the system off. Now press and hold your reset and power button down together for 10 seconds and then release. Power the system off and then power it back on. And that might start the flash recovery initiation thing or whatever. But it didn't for me. So I had and there was nothing I could do. I was stuck in a boot loop, and I came down to a last resort here. My last resort was I needed to, because I read on the internet you can short pins 1 and 6 to get your backup BIOS to recover your primary BIOS. So the way you can tell how to get the orientation of your chip on your board is there should be a little arrow, and it'll point to one of the corners of your chip, and this little arrow will point to pin 1. Also, you should have a little glob of white or yellow or something, and it should be more or less in a particular corner. And this little glob of goop here will tell you which corner pin 1 is on. These aren't really very accurate, but they're closest to this corner, which indicates pin 1. Also, these little arrows indicate pin 1. So what you want to do, the way the pin orientation goes, is it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it goes that way, and then 5, 6, 7, 8. So you want to take a paper clip. You got to be really careful when you do this, because if you do it wrong, you can break your chip forever, and then you're screwed. You got to have like real steady, confident hand, and you got to take a paper clip, and you have to short out pin 1 to pin 6 while your system is off. Now the instructions told me that I'm supposed to hold a short with a paper clip on these 2 pins and then boot the system, and then the backup BIOS will see that something's screwed up with the main BIOS and attempt to flash it. Well, what I did was I had the system powered off. I shorted pins 1 and 6 with a paper clip real carefully for about 10 seconds, and then I pulled off the paper clip, and then I just went to turn my computer on one more time to see if it did anything, and it did. So part of the instruction said after you short out pins 1 and 6, you got to turn your system on while you're still shorting those 2 pins. I didn't have to do that. All I had to do was short these 2 pins while the system was off, and then I booted my system, and I got the recovery message for do you want to flash your BIOS and stuff, and it did, and it asked me that, and it worked. So shorting out these 2 pins here will basically force a flash recovery. It'll finally let your, because my BIOS was broken in such a way where it wasn't broken enough for the algorithm that detects broken BIOS for it to detect it as broken. But if you short these 2 pins while your system's off, and then turn your system back on after you've done that, it should initiate the process, and that's what worked for me. And if you look carefully, that's just how you oh, and when you do this, it'll say on your board M BIOS or B BIOS. You want to do this to your main BIOS. Don't short out your B BIOS. If you short out your B BIOS, you're screwed for life and you'll have to get a new board. Do it to your M BIOS. Make sure you're doing it to your M BIOS. But first, before you get too crazy with this, try to do the turn the system off, hold the power button method first. If that doesn't work, then try to do the hold the power and reset buttons for a few seconds. If that doesn't work, and you can't get anything else to work, if you can't like get Q flash to work or anything, then you can try this. I'm also going to say, if you attempt to do this and you break your system, it's not my fault. This is what I did. This is exactly what I did to my computer. I shorted pins 1 and 6 while the system was off, and then I rebooted and it started the flash recovery program. And here's my computer. Running like a baby. But alright, thanks for watching. If you did, I hope this helps somebody.